When Aaron showed this to me, we had to sit together and watch it several times to see if we could determine whether or not it was fake. And it turns out it's not fake. It's actually real. This actually happened just a couple of days ago.
Track a developing situation in Boyle County. The Central Kentucky Emergency Room remains closed tonight. Leaders at Ephraim McDowell Regional Medical Center are concerned about a potential public health risk. And we have just learned within the last half hour that the patient in question tested positive for 2 strains of adult chickenpox.
They locked down a hospital for 9 hours. They locked down the entire ER. They diverted patients, cops all over the scene, because somebody came in with chickenpox.
Leaders at Ephraim McDowell Regional Medical Center are concerned about a potential public health risk. And we have just learned within the last half hour that the patient in question tested positive for 2 strains of adult chickenpox.
It was chickenpox.
Leaders locked down the emergency room and diverted incoming patients to area hospitals. A hospital spokesperson says they were working closely with the Center for Disease Control and determined it was necessary to isolate the patient.
The Centers for Disease Control determined that it was necessary to isolate this case of adult chickenpox that may be dangerous to the population. They're locking down a hospital now because someone comes in with adult chickenpox. And while chickenpox is more dangerous for you when you're an adult, if you have a healthy immune system, you're fine. I mean, you're not going to probably die of this, okay? But it's like a continuance of what they did with measles. I'm wondering if this is not some kind of psyop, because again, when we watched this, we thought it was fake. And the reason for the psyop right now, I have to wonder if it's not because the CDC whistleblower story is coming back. Because it's coming out now. Actually, Rep. Posey put it in front of Congress just a few days ago. Check this out.
Parents making decisions about their children's health deserve to have the best information available to them. They should be able to count on federal agencies to tell them the truth. For these reasons, I bring the following matter to the House floor. In August 2014, Dr. William Thompson, a senior scientist at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, worked with a whistleblower attorney to provide my office with documents related to a 2004 CDC study that examined the possibility of a relationship between mumps, measles, rubella, vaccines, and autism. In a statement released in August 2014, Dr. Thompson stated, "I regret that my co-authors and I omitted statistically significant information in our 2004 article published in the Journal of Pediatrics. We hypothesized that if we found statistically significant effects at either 18 or 36-month thresholds, we would conclude that vaccinating children early with MMR vaccine could lead to autism-like characteristics or features." At the bottom of Table 7, it also shows that for the non-birth certificate sample, the adjusted race effect statistical significance was huge. Sometime soon after the meeting, we decided to exclude reporting any race effects. The co-authors scheduled a meeting to destroy documents related to the study. The remaining 4 co-authors all met and brought a big garbage can into the meeting room and reviewed and went through all the hard copy documents that we had thought we should discard and put them in a huge garbage can. However, because I assumed it was illegal and would violate both FOIA and DOJ requests, I kept hard copies of all documents in my office and I retained all associated computer files. I believe we intentionally withheld controversial findings from the final draft of the pediatrics paper. A hearing and a thorough investigation is warranted.
That's what happened. The whistleblower is back in the news. It's quite obvious now this is not going to just quietly go away when you have a congressman getting up and saying we're going to have a hearing about this. Now, I don't know if they're actually going to do anything about it, but they straight up covered up links between the MMR vaccine and autism. And as much as all these people who want to argue that you should have your medical freedom taken away, your ability to decide whether or not you and your children take vaccination should be taken away for the greater good, no one can get around the fact, that a CDC's own epidemiologist came out and said, look, we covered it up. We had the data. We saw a huge statistical significance linking MMR vaccines to autism. Period. 340% increase. Okay? And they covered it up. And they destroyed the documents in a further attempt to do that. And then they lied about it. And so when you have the CDC closing down emergency rooms over adult chickenpox, it makes me wonder if they're not doing this because the CDC whistleblower story is coming back out. The same way that the CDC pushed all of the fear over Ebola, and they start shipping Ebola patients over here. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. They tried to scare the crap out of everyone then, and what happened to the CDC whistleblower story? It disappeared. Now it's back, and now suddenly we have hospitals locking down over chickenpox. Chickenpox. You know, that might work with the measles to scare the crap out of people with the measles, since not a lot of us were around back in the days anymore before they had measles vaccinations. Back when the measles was a joke, when it was a punchline on primetime television, because measles is actually not that deadly either. I mean, we've had one person die of measles in this country in the last 12 years, and that person was vaccinated. So, but it's not going to work with chickenpox. I'm sorry, but you have too many people here who grew up in the 80s like myself who had chickenpox. And they remember getting to stay home from school for a week, watch a bunch of, Nickelodeon or whatever propaganda crap they had me watching, and eat a lot of peanut butter sandwiches. That's what I remember doing. Chickenpox fearmongering is not... Who's that going to work on? What, the millennials? This is PSYOP. Total and utter PSYOP. And if the CDC would lie to us about links between the MMR vaccine and autism, why should we be forced with legislation to take the vaccines that the CDC says we should take, when we obviously can't trust them about whether or not they're going to tell us if these vaccines are safe or not? Period.